marketers, we have to decide how deep down the rabbit hole we're going to go. And I decided I'm all in. But I don't think that's something or that's required for everybody. I think there's going to be a lot of different options and opportunities and spaces for people to occupy. But I've gone all in. So I was really big into ChatGPT. I remember when ChatGPT came out, it was awesome. I had a client who had beta or early access to Bing. I remember when Bing first came out, it had internet search and ChatGPT didn't. And I was like, oh my gosh, the CEO is second guessing my recommendations. So I had to get onto Bing.
Welcome back to tomorrow's best practices today. As always, I'm Clark Newby, and I'm joined today by Angus Robertson. Angus is a fractional CMO. We know a lot of these guys, right? But doing something very interesting. He's just founded Outcome Marketing, an organization where he partners with founders, CEOs on go-to-market clarity and AI integrated growth strategies. We're going to talk a lot today about the practical and pragmatic applications of AI. Before that, he was CMO at ConnectWise for a couple of years. ConnectWise, the top global platform serving IT solution providers. Uh, Before that, he was with our friends at Chief Outsiders and was a fractional chief revenue officer there for a few years, working mostly with B2B SaaS and services companies, like a lot of us do. Again, focus on go-to-market strategy, sales and marketing alignment. If you're not familiar with the Chief Outsiders model, it's a great organization for folks to bring in their expertise and kind of help drive the organization while it scales up into more fully staffing the team and organization leadership chain. So he's been all of this to say he's bruised his knuckles. He's been very hands-on with this stuff. He's also an author of a book called Outcome Marketing as well, which is a very practical playbook we're going to talk about in a little bit. But anyway, I've already talked a little bit more at the front here than I meant to. Um, First of all, Angus, welcome. And I'd love to hear a little bit about how you've gone from this successful CMO, CRO role into outcome marketing and what it means and how you find yourself here.
Yeah, thanks, Clark. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on. So, yeah, it's been a little bit of a journey. I've been doing marketing really focused on B2B and primarily technology and SaaS companies for over 25 years now. And over that time, I've worked with some amazing people, got exposed to some great companies, some great CEOs, awesome customers, and some really cool approaches to marketing or methodologies. And my uh, co-founder at Outcome Marketing, plus a friend of mine who's written some great books. I don't know if you've heard of Brad Whittington and Welcome to Fred, but check him out. He's a best-selling author in fiction and nonfiction. But during the pandemic, we decided we should be a little more constructive with our time and put down some of those best practices we had learned over the years. And I find it really helpful to write, just from a thinking standpoint. Simon Sinek says writing is thinking. So getting all your thoughts down on paper, you think you have so many answers in your head, but then you put them on paper, you're like, oh, that's not very good. So, just putting the effort into organizing your thoughts and understanding really what you believe and what works, I think is a really valuable exercise to internalize that thinking and help you sort of move on to build on it.
Yeah, and the book, I'm gonna not bury the lead, but the book is Outcome Marketing. Yeah, you wrote it with Neil and
Yeah.
with Brad as well. And you can see also, guys, in my copy, all the little tabs in here. I just wanted to congratulate you on it because it's so pragmatic, it's so practical. It's it's the kind of book that you do. You'll tab it away and you can pull it back. It's very prescriptive, and I love at the end of each chapter, You guys talk about the new cards in your deck, right? Like here's something, here's what we talked about, guys. Here's how to apply it. So we'll get a little bit more tactical here in a few minutes. But the book I highly recommend because I think particularly as we're going through the transitions that we're talking about, it's nice to be able to come back and kind of look at the same recipes, but how you maybe cook them with now what the materials you have at hand. And obviously AI has been a big is at the center of all this. And it seems like AI was a big part of why you guys also decided that the world had changed enough, maybe that it needed another map, or that it needed um, yeah, that you guys felt like you had valuable insight to share as people were navigating this new change. And so because you had a good gig going as a CMO and CRO, et cetera, et cetera. But is AI sort of
Yeah, no, the
the,
last few
the, the
years it's really
the active
consumed.
ingredient that caused this? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Over the past few years, AI has certainly been top of mind and started to consume me. And many of us, as technologists and just as humans, have been through a number of industry disruptions.
Yeah.
We've gone through the internet and mobile phones and the cloud and remote work, all that stuff. But I mean, when generative AI came out with ChatGPT, I mean, I know there was others who were working on this before. It really changed the lens, and I don't know if any of you have watched Jeffrey Hinton, but some of what he talks about, he's sometimes referred to as the godfather of AI. He got a Nobel Prize recently, and he was at Google for a while, but he didn't even see this coming. I mean, it's really been sort of surprising to us as humans, just what sort of come out of this, and it's been enabled by all the information and the technology that we have out there, the compute, the all the information that we have on the internet, the storage and the networking. It's really starting to turn into something that's greater than the sum of its parts. And I don't think we all quite understand it yet. And so late last year, I think when Claude came out with Opus 4.5, there was another just big jump. And then with 4.6 now, I started just to see what could be done and watching a fair amount of YouTube. And I was just like, how are these people doing this? I mean, this is just beyond revolutionary in terms of so many disciplines and domains. And I just felt like I had to get more involved because at a fairly decent sized company, more than 3,000 employees, you're you got some overhead there, right? A fair amount of meetings,
Hmm.
fair amount of board decks, supporting people. It's all very important stuff. But I felt like I was, this AI revolution was happening, and I was just sort of watching from the sidelines, and I just felt compelled to dive in and knew I had to rewire myself because everything was going to change.
Well, everything needs to change, right? And this gap has opened up, and it's probably still widening, but both between what we thought we could do, what we realized we could do, but also the tech stack. Another opportunity to redo your freaking tech stack. Oh boy, right? And the communication across all the different activities that AI may be powering. And so it feels like also like we often talk about this in terms of rewiring, right? You're using AI to get better in each category, maybe more efficient, maybe smarter, maybe even more strategic, but also maintaining some sort of formation, I guess, while you're doing all that. Rewires a lot of the management thinking too. So I think there's a lot of connectivity across as well, right?
So, Clark, I think you said something interesting there. You used the phrase or the word tech stack, and I think there's some interesting things happening going on there. So, for example, I think the hardware folks are going to be some of the winners. Apple, for example, people love just how all those pieces go together. I'm sure you've heard, and many folks have heard about OpenClaw, right? And everybody's deploying OpenClaw on Mac Minis now, but it's because all those pieces come together and just work so well. and the security and the privacy is solid. But then you also look at things like the RAM prices. Memory prices have skyrocketed, and it's all these data center build outs. It's all the utilities. It's the GPUs, of course, with NVIDIA. I mean, the amount of billions they're making in profit every quarter is mind boggling. And then, of course, the LLMs, the models. So these folks are really in a very strong position. These network folks, these compute folks, these data center folks. And then I do think it gets interesting for the SaaS providers. You're seeing it in the stock market. Hot SaaS companies losing 40% of their value practically overnight. I do
Yeah.
think that world is changing because so many of these products are just becoming irrelevant because you can just do it with some hardware, some networking, and the LLM.
Yeah, absolutely. There are it's kind of the classic picks and shovels again, right? There are going to be winners and losers in what creek is picked to try to find this gold, but you're going to need Levi's, you're going to need picks, you're going to need shovels, all of them.
Yes.
Um, and I know you've real, and I know that you've knelt in these streams, right? I know that you're really digging in with this stuff, as I mentioned in your intro. Can you share with us maybe an example of two that really unlocked for you uh, what the kind of the scope and the urgency and how you were going to have to rewire with the advent of AI in helping your clients and helping your organization?
Yeah, I think that marketers, we have to decide how deep down the rabbit hole we're going to go. And I decided I'm all in. But I don't think that's something or that's required for everybody. I think there's going to be a lot of different options and opportunities and spaces for people to occupy. But I've gone all in. So I was really big into ChatGPT. I remember when ChatGPT came out, it was awesome. I had a client who had beta or early access to Bing. I remember when Bing first came out, it had internet search and ChatGPT didn't. And I was like, oh my gosh, the CEO is second guessing my recommendations. So I had to get onto Bing. And then, of course, you had Perplexity and all that sort of thing. But ChatGPT just seemed to work, and I was a big loyalist. And after I left my last full time gig, I was building a web page, and ChatGPT just kept hiccuping. And so I tried my $20 Claude subscription, and it was able to figure it out. And then before you know it, I was using Claude Code. And I didn't know sort of how I was going to go about this or where I was going to go. But, there's all sorts of options. But I ended up with VS Code, which is a integrated development environment with the Claude Code plugin, using GitHub and using Cloudflare. And it's just a really powerful tool set for building websites. And that just sort of got me from using ChatGPT and Claude in the web to using sort of that development environment, even though I'm a marketer. And then from there, I went from building websites, something that would take 2 or 3 months, I was able to put together in 4 days or 9 days for the outcome marketing website. It's just crazy how fast you can go, and the content's better, and it connects things better as well. So from there, I went and built my first app, this digital diagnostic, this competitive landscape diagnostic, which before would take a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 people. Now it's done in 10 minutes, and it's much more in depth. It shows how your presence is across the different AI LLMs, across your different competitors and yourself, how you shape up with the different conversations to own. And so to do that, I use Vercel and Supabase, which are two hot products out there in the AI world. And now I've just gone to my third evolution. So gone from sort of building websites to building apps to building bots. And so why use OpenClaw when you can have your own agents? So my first agent just came alive a couple days ago, and I pasted a screenshot from my agent who was replying to me in Google Chat because he's integrated into Google Chat. His name is Shep because he's the air traffic controller or the shepherd or the Sherpa. And I pasted that screenshot saying, it basically said, I'm alive, I'm not thinking yet, right? Because I hadn't wired him into an LLM, into Claude Code, and Claude Code responded and said, Shep's alive, stage two complete.
Oh, jeez.
I just felt like I was in a sci-fi movie
Yeah,
or book at that moment. I was like, what is
it
happening?
is
Right.
alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, so clearly, you're up to your eyebrows in actually using, right? This is great for those of us kind of on the call on the pod. To we love to hear these, kind of these specific how you're getting it done, what you're using stories. When you're working with your clients, where do you see like how do you help them determine when it's time to get down this rabbit hole and what are they getting right and what are they getting wrong in their ways? Where do you find them, even in their ways of thinking about AI?
Yeah. So it's this is sort of a back to the basics approach, kind of that assessment approach. So one thing I mentioned earlier that's really impressed me with AI is not that you can just do things better, faster, cheaper, but it can connect things that you couldn't connect before. So I've been able to connect a competitive digital diagnostic or assessment with a style guide that includes positioning and messaging and visuals to building a website to your voice of customer interviews. And that's a whole loop. So you go from competitive diagnostics to style guide to website to voice of the customer all back again. And you get the style guide right, it builds the website for you. It just builds the website for you based on the templates. And then you see the competitor market shift, or you see from your customer interviews things starting to resonate differently, your style guide updates, your website updates. So this
Right.
whole loop is happening. So when I go to clients, I start with that diagnostic and it shows what the landscape looks like from the point of view of an LLM. What does Claude or what does Gemini or what does ChatGPT, when they look at you
Yeah.
online across your authority, your website, all that sort of thing, how do you show up relative to your competitors? And you quickly see, oh, there we're good. There's a bit of a gap. There's an emerging opportunity. And it kind of accomplishes two things. One is, oh, there's an opportunity right there. And wow, you can do that with AI. Let's see how we can sort of put that into how we work.
If you're an expert in PR, you're expert on the product, you're expert on search, etc. How are these folks do you think that's all just going to get kind of s- smeared out horizontally, or is the opportunity for these anchor, for your skill set to get, accelerated and compounded by AI? How do you keep yourself on that side of the equation as opposed to the becoming obsolete side of the equation?
Yeah, I think a very good question. So part of it is just being interested and open and embracing AI and just getting into the mix. So that curiosity and that interest, I think, is really key because there's plenty of people who are and who may not know how it works but just dive in. And there's so much out there on YouTube, and you can just ask the LLM questions if you don't understand it. So that learning capability is just wildly accelerated. So I think for the folks who do have that years of experience and domain expertise, I think sort of two things. One is that what was that book? It was on long tail, kind of the long tail opportunity.
Yeah,
Where you had kind of your local store or even Walmart or whatever, and you were limited in what you can buy. But then Amazon comes along, and you've got a market and a niche for or a product for everybody. So you've got just this explosion of stores and little tiny market segments and little tiny products that can serve each other, right?
yeah,
It happened with media as well. You had just a few traditional media networks like NBC or whatever. Now you have hundreds of thousands of YouTube channels, right? And some of them are really good and they serve a very distinct audience. I think the same thing will happen and is happening with apps because that barrier to entry has just disappeared. So if you're a plumber or a teacher, you can build your own app and you have that domain expertise. So maybe we have 20,000 or so SaaS companies. Why not have 200,000 AI apps or 500,000 AI apps? I think these different micro market segments can have very tailored solutions. And I think there's a real opportunity for the small business or the solopreneur to support those specific niches and just be a domain expert there. So you can really focus and be good in a particular area and take advantage of AI and LLM to take you to a whole nother level. I don't think the folks right out of school have to despair either, though. We were talking before the podcast. I found this forum, AI Tinkerers, and I'm on their newsletter. This lady in her 20s in Chicago, she's watching YouTube. She's in the forum with people, and she's playing with OpenClaw and doing these things that are just amazing, right? And she's just because she's dived in and gotten her hands dirty. So I think that barrier to entry and the
Yeah.
learning is disappeared. So
Barrier
you
to
have that
learning
interest. Yeah.
when bringing AI into the go-to-market. So much of the engagement is, first of all, a lot of this being driven by the wrong outside, not the kind of outside where you're focused on your customers, your prospects, and your outcomes.
Right.
But to your point, align the board is like, all right, I got to tell the board what we're doing about AI. And so you're kind of, you start by solving the wrong problem, right? And then secondly, you don't really, if you've got, it's like any era of automation. If you've got screwed up subpar processes and you automate them, all you do is tangle things up faster, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
tighter,
Yeah.
and now you're spending the time to
You can go in the wrong
untangle
direction
that
really
knot.
fast, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You hit the wall, you hit the wall
Yeah.
faster, right? But there's such an opportunity with AI in particular is to kind of take that, to kind of use it for like as anti-lock brakes or stability control. Like let the machine kind of keep you stable and then send the signals to your dashboard about where better to steer. And I just find so many folks are still sort of they just don't have their heads up yet about the the signals and answers that can be unlocked once you get a good process, a strong market fit, um, a clear view of your target customer, ideal customers, et cetera, in place. And they kind of use it as just sort of a sauce. AI is a sauce they're pouring over stuff that they really haven't figured out in the first place. AI is not going to figure that out for you.
No, and your experience and judgment still matter. I mean, just a very simple example that a lot of content marketers have run into is you see the default tone is all that terrible marketing and sales pitch and collateral stuff. It's like most companies just do this, and it's horrible copy, right? It's what is covering like 80% of the internet that the LLMs have learned from. So
Right.
being able to get a authentic voice out that resonates with your audience absolutely requires some AI tuning and some judgment and experience from somebody who knows how to connect with their audience. That's a
And that differentiates, right?
yeah,
That differentiates because, like you said, the LLMs only know all the stuff they read it all. And if you're more of that and confused about why you don't stand out, you got bigger problems than like what's AI going to do
right.
to your job or your business. You haven't figured out your differentiation,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
right? So I wanted to also get from you because several times in the conversation already you've mentioned, oh, I was watching this YouTube channel, reading that. Um, for our community, are there particular maybe they're books, maybe they're YouTube channels that you would point folks toward to really understand, to be kind of on that wise, smart, evolving edge of applying AI into the go-to-market art and science.
Yeah, there's a lot of good channels out there, and YouTube's algorithm is very good. So if you want to get into AI, like and subscribe to those AI channels that resonate with you, and you'll be exposed to more like it. Two that I like, one more on sort of the business of AI and the strategy of the AI is Lenny's podcast. Have you? Yeah. So that one's great. There's an interview with the COO of Vercel that is really illuminating on Lenny's podcast. It's I think she's really got a great approach. She knows what she's doing. I think that's really smart.
Yeah.
Also,
Give folks the give folks her whole description so they can find her.
yeah, Jean DeWitt. So if you look for Vercel, she's the COO. She runs pretty much all of go to market for Vercel. But her interview with Lenny on Lenny's podcast is worth watching. It's about an hour.
Yeah.
Um, if you want to get sort of more technical and get into the weeds, there's a lot of really good ones, but one I think is good is Arjun Codes, so Arjan Codes, and he talks about how to set up your environment and how to get it really working for you. And there's some good insights and productivity gains from just playing with those. It's really, it seems like it might be hard to do, but once you're playing with it, it's not that bad. So yeah,
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. As it's a different sort of learning almost. I guess part of it because of the give and take and because of the incremental approach. You think about like a course you would take or something else. It's much more immersive than that, much more dynamic and immediate, and you turn around and you're kind of learning together, right? You don't have to learn everything, the next thing to tell an AI to do or a model to do. It's
right,
learning. And so
yeah,
it's a funny dynamic. It just kind of puts you in a different posture a little bit. And some people it takes a while to figure out that it's not necessarily about there was so much talk in earlier days, particularly about creating the perfect prompt, et cetera, et cetera. It's like or do a dozen tight loops on it and figure it out together, right?
yeah. I think you're onto something, and I don't quite know how this is going to develop, but it's something I'm experimenting with, which is the whole idea of servant leadership, right? I
Mm,
always believed if you have the right principles, the right values, the right goals, and the right set of people, you sort of let them loose, and then you connect and share perspectives about what's working, what's not working relative to what you're trying to do. But you don't have to be prescriptive because they figure it out and they learn from each other. And so I'm following that path with AI. Yeah,
with your new with Shep.
exactly. Yep.
That's great. Oh, and then I also want folks, just as we wrap up now, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you, Angus. I want to make sure folks know where they can find outcome marketing. Boom, boom, boom. Um, I'm sure Amazon, but would you point folks to the best way to get their hands on this great? It's a handbook that you can use again and again and again for your go to market work.
Yeah, so Amazon's great. There's the Kindle or the paperback version there. You can also go to outcome.marketing, scroll down to the footer, and there's a link there for the book and about the book. But yeah, appreciate anybody taking a look. And if you care about alignment, if you care about executing against that alignment and delivering outcomes, it's just like Clark said, it's a playbook to help you do that.
And if you go to that outcome marketing website, you'll get to see what you can build in, was it 9 days, you said?
9 days, yeah. Yeah.
What is possible now? It's sort of its own case study right there. It's a terrific website, and that for those of us that used to engage agencies for months long, meeting after meeting after meeting, pummeling product marketing for content, et
Right.
cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do now. Um, Angus Robertson, thank you so much for spending time with us today. Thank you for being part of the Leadtail and Tomorrow Best Practices Today community, because these are the kind of conversations we love to have, where somebody's really gone and it's like, guys, look, I went into the woods, put the knife between my teeth. This is how I did it. This is what I discovered. It's super helpful for all of us. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the time, and thank you for joining us, man.
Yeah, thank you, Clark. Thanks for having me. It's been a really enjoyable conversation. Thank you.
That's great. All right, take care, everybody. Until the next podcast. But thank you again from Tomorrow's Best Practices Today. Take care.